Hello and welcome to another episode of Behind the Bar. I'm your host, Temi Tayo, and we've just watched Manchester United lose at Old Trafford against Brighton, 3-1. A reverse scoreline from the victory against Southampton, where Ahmad happened to paper over the cracks. And today we saw those cracks emerge and the team really break down against a decent Brighton team who seem to have success at Old Trafford whenever they show up. And yes, the result was very disappointing, but that performance left a bitter taste in my mouth. There's enough blame to go around, to be fair, but I want to focus on three takeaways that I have from watching Man United lose another game at Old Trafford. And I believe now it's 2 wins in 10 in the Premier League for Ruben Amorim's Man United. And the first point, I think, is back to reality, right? We had great performances and results against Liverpool in the FA Cup against Arsenal, and the Ahmad hat-trick sort of kept that good vibe going. But Brighton certainly brought us back down to earth. Back in 13th position, back to a seriously negative goal difference, and the defensive vulnerabilities reared their ugly heads again. First half, within the first 5 minutes, a simple ball over the top takes out the entire team and creates a 2v1 against Onana for a simple tap-in for Brighton's first goal. And it just went from bad to worse from there. Of course, we got the penalty that came from Ahmad putting the pressure on the Brighton defender, forcing the mistake, which caused a penalty, which Bruno Fernandes converted. But outside of that chance, I can't recall a single clear-cut opportunity that the team created. Brighton took complete control of the game. They controlled the tempo. And it looked like Brighton were playing a team in the relegation side. And I'm just being as honest as I can. We looked nothing like the home team in that game. No control whatsoever in the midfield. No surprise to see that Manuel Owate and Kobe Mainoo was substituted early in the second half. And we just look a shambles from back to front. I'm not going to do the player ratings today because I don't think it'll be fair. I'm not sure that anyone came out of that game above a 6. And that's being generous. And this result has certainly, like I said, brought us back to reality that we are a 13th place team in the Premier League with no midfield control, with a bloated squad, with an imbalanced squad, and our highest 2 earners are nowhere to be found in Marcus Rashford and Casemiro. And that points to my second takeaway, which is Ineos. And they need to be held accountable because they uprooted Amorim from Sporting Lisbon halfway through the season. We have one of our best attackers in Marcus Rashford out of the team. We have our highest earners in the squad in Casemiro not getting a single minute. And yet the transfer window is being open for, 18, 19 days now. And we've not seen anything happen. Right across town in Manchester City, they've already secured 3 new signings, and they're in the top half of the table. And that's the reaction that you'd expect from owners who are serious about their club and their team. I mean, how can you be in 13th place as Man United and we haven't seen any drastic changes in the transfer window? I would have imagined that by now we would have had a resolution to the Rashford situation. We would have supported Amorim with 1 or 2 signings to help bolster the squad. But yet we've seen absolutely nothing from Ineos 19 days into the market opening. And the market will be closed January 31st. So we're talking less than 2 weeks to support this manager, to support the club by investing into this squad. And I think it's high time that the fans really start to hold Ineos accountable, because they've made all sorts of promises about best in class this and getting Man United back to where they belong. But to this point, we've seen horrible decision making. We've seen lack of support and silence. So, Ineos, we need you to act, and act quickly. We have, 10, 12 days left in the transfer window, and we need to see some movement in the squad, both outgoings and incomings. I understand the FFP ramifications and how that financial fair play limits what can be done. But certainly something has to be done. We're languishing in 13th place, and it's not looking like it's going to get better. Credit to Amorim, because I think he had the foresight to warn the fans about the storm. And we're knee deep into this mess now. And he needs support, and we need Ineos to step up and make the necessary changes to salvage the season. Because even though the Premier League is out of the question in terms of finishing in the top four, and yes, I'll admit that, but we still have the FA Cup, we have the Europa League to play for, and in cup competitions, we know that this United team on any given day can step up, but they need a refresher in the squad. They need some new faces, some new blood. And Ineos need to make changes, and they need to make it quick, because what we're seeing right now is, quite frankly, demoralizing. Watching the team just look devoid of ideas, relying on Ahmad and Bruno to make something happen, being a transition team, a counter-attacking team, having spent millions and millions and tens of millions on these players. It's troubling, and we need some changes quickly. And third and finally, I think it's time for Amorim to consider playing the kids, going into the academy and just giving these kids a chance. Because we've seen that the experienced players are just not up for it. Yes, they'll get up for the big games, for the Liverpools and the Arsenals and the Cities, but when the expectations are to play well at home, to take the game to the opposition, we're not seeing that. And so I think there's a big shift that needs to take place. Players need to be dropped. And if we're not going to bring in new signings, then we need to give these kids a chance. Because what we're doing right now simply isn't working. And so I'm urging Amorim to bring the kids in, go into the academy and bring in the prospects and play them. They can't be any worse than what we've seen from the experienced players. And like I said, there's a lot of blame to go around, but I'm not going to scapegoat anyone. But I must touch on the mistake from Andre Onana, because for me that was criminal. Criminal. To put your team in that position where there was no danger at the time. There was one player in the box, simple cross that comes in, and you make a mess of it. And you put the team on the back foot, essentially just taking us out of the game. Now, last week I talked about Onana keeping us in the game against Southampton with that double save. So it's hard to single him out, but such a mistake just has to be called out. I'm sorry. I'd like to see Binder given a run in this team, especially after his heroics in the FA Cup against Arsenal. And I think it's just high time that we shake things up. I want to see the likes of Harry Amas at left wing back, bringing Chido Obi Martin, start Kukonki. Let's see these young players given a shot because the senior players just aren't doing it. So what do we have to lose? We're languishing in 13th position. The season is practically over from a Premier League standpoint, but there's still a lot to play for in the FA Cup and the Europa League. So I think it's high time that we see some fresh faces in the squad and start to plan for next season in the Premier League and see which one of these kids are ready to step up and take their chance, since the senior players don't seem to be cutting it. So very very sad case today. That performance was horrible, horrific, and left a bitter taste in my mouth. Next up, we have Rangers in the Europa League this Thursday. And I'm really hoping that we'll see some of the kids get a shot because the senior players have left a lot to be desired. That's it for me. Thank you guys for watching. Hoping for more positive performances and results in the future. Otherwise, we'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.